On May 30th, 2021, on a road trip across the US, my friend Hubert and I stopped in Minneapolis and had dinner at this place called Sanjusan. This Italian and Japanese concept had just opened its doors 2 months prior to our visit, and we did have a cocktail at the upstairs cocktail bar called Kato no Mise. They do a fantastic Negroni, and there are a few bars in Minneapolis with the same intimate, upscale vibe. I highly recommend a visit if you have a chance. A refreshing glass of Mos Chenin Blanc from 2018 for me. This would get me through this entire meal. First up to start, Wagyu nigiri, fantastic rice texture, but I wanted more vinegar in the seasoning. I get the sentiment to not overpower the beef with Wagyu, but this was a dull bite overall. Next up, a selection of yakitori off the grill. We went with the chicken thigh, chicken skin, chicken liver, and chicken wing. Every single one had the right amount of umami, sweetness, and smoke while being texturally interesting and thoughtfully portioned. The liver was far and above my favorite one. Next up, a dish of fried prawns, shiso, and lemon. Cool maneuver here using gyoza wrappers and a whole shiso leaf. They weren't greasy or soggy at all, but I was craving a sauce of some kind other than just the lemon after a few bites of this. This is eggplant katsu with red cabbage, bulldog mayo, Fresno chili, and basil. I actually really enjoyed the flavors of this, but the way that it was plated made it really awkward to eat unless you were really thoughtful about cutting everything up and building bites with kind of every single component on your fork. Pork gyoza here with wood ear mushrooms, foie gras, nori, and scallions. Wrapper texture was on point, but Hubert and I both took a bite of this and looked at each other and said the same word at the same time: salt. This was lacking seasoning overall, but again, the textures worked. Transitioning to pizza and pasta now, this is shrimp ravioli with XO butter, chives, and Parmesan. I got no real XO flavor in the ravioli, and I'm directly reading my notes here. I'm starting to try to take notes of these meals. My note said, quote, texture was a shrimp meatball wrapped in pasta and glazed in butter sauce, end quote. I guess that's what I thought. Squid ink pappardelle with seafood bolognese and pecorino. This slapped. I really enjoyed this entire bowl. The pasta texture was phenomenal, even as a squid ink noodle, and the sauce had this fantastic chili undertone to it, and the salty cheese and toasted breadcrumbs made this the dish of the day, for sure, for me. Since we clearly wanted to order half of this menu and try a bunch, we went with just one pizza, a simple margarita, with no complaints from me. This actually gave me weirdly based from Copenhagen vibes, if anybody's ever been there. This was exactly what I wanted and would expect from a small pizza like this. It was a joy to keep eating, blistered dough with a chewy texture, and a non-fussy tomato sauce. If my memory serves, there was only one dessert option, so this is a koji marinated Honeycrisp apple flan with a apple cider vinegar cream sauce. This also slapped. I wasn't really expecting apples in May, but between the texture variation, the sweetness and acidity balance, and excuse the phrasing, but an ugly delicious kind of presentation, made this another winner. Total for the two of us came to $205.94. Shout out to this cool Czech caddy. You folks might have noticed that I shared a few more of my additional opinions on this meal than I usually do, especially about the food, and this is an experiment that I'm doing after a really well-written comment from Denzel on the TPC TFL video where he asked to hear more descriptive language, and I wanted to add some additional thoughts to the folks that stick around to the ends of these videos, because if I'm being honest, this is who this is for. You folks are the OGs. You're not the ones who comment, I could have gone to McDonald's at the bottom of these videos. So how the sausage is made with these videos a little bit, right? I hold my camera at the table and I film the food as the dish is getting dropped in front of me. So the time that you hear me explain my voiceover is usually the same amount of time that the person explaining the dish, whether that's a chef or a front of house person, spends talking about that dish. And the second that's done, I start eating, right? And so to avoid the food getting cold or to have anything get texturally ruined, I basically have just enough B-roll to explain that dish to you. And so I don't have additional footage to talk about the flavors or the texture, like any of that, because I would have to replay that B-roll. And when you're watching a YouTube video like this, you don't want to see the same B-roll twice. You will click off that video. And so I have to be a little bit beholden to the platform that I'm publishing something like this on. And I don't work like other food influencer people. I don't make people that are eating with me wait for me. I don't ask anyone at the restaurant to do things multiple times for the camera. I get one shot at this, basically. And I really try to be intentional about that. This entire experience, if I thought that I had to be performative at a table or turn a meal into something that it's not, which is something that I just cherish as a practice of going out to eat, this whole entire process would be ruined for me and it would taint TPC as a concept for me. I'm not a food blogger. I don't rate restaurants. I've never had a sponsor for TPC episodes. Maybe I will in the future, who knows? But for now, these are something that are just like, it's a pet project. It's something I do because I'm passionate about it. And these videos are meant to share one guy's experience on a particular day. And I like to be as transparent as possible about the factors that influenced that experience. At best, this becomes a fun way for me to relive and capture moments of my life and improve my ability to talk about food, which you can enjoy for free, should you so choose. And lastly, to wrap all this up, to the point about critiquing the food, I usually try to keep things limited to talking about two things, flavor and execution. Longtime viewers of the channel know I have a video all about it. That's the most subjectively objective way that I can look at someone else's food presentation. If we're talking about my food, the choices that I make to use certain ingredients or use certain techniques, that's totally on the table because that's something that I chose. The second that I start saying, I wouldn't have used lemon, I would have used lime, or I would have used a different fruit on the dessert, it's not their dish anymore, right? Like now it's weirdly their dish with my ideas in it, and that's never my intention. I do my best to keep the criticism about small, minor issues that could easily be adjusted over time, or things that just got missed, whether that was they were super busy, maybe someone didn't taste something because they were wearing a mask at that time because it was a mandate that they had to be masked in the kitchen, and so when you're doing that, you don't taste things as often, right? Or I will just say that I didn't enjoy something, because by definition, if every dish on a menu is great, none of them are great, right? And it's the comparison and the variety that makes a menu and a meal interesting to me. So yes, I made friend of the channel Max Shapiro my spirit animal during this voiceover, and even though I'm still clearly reading from my script a little bit, I'm just hope that this allowed you to go a little bit deeper into TPC and how it's made. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, whether it's on the food from Sanjusan, or if you have thoughts on this little rant monologue thing that I did at the end of this episode. I really, really appreciate your attention as always. My name is Justin Khanna, and I hope you have a good one.